Now at 4, feeling unsafe on TriMet. Max and bus riders express their frustration and fears surrounding Portland's public transportation.
Did this really happen? Did we just have back-to-back days of N-word?
Plus, athletes and coaches at a local high school call out racial taunts and slurs they say they've dealt with multiple times this season. And from the farmlands to the great blue skies, the innovative way Northwest researchers are trying to power the planes of the future. And our top story at 4, the Portland man who plowed past blockades, nearly hitting several people, including small children, along the Rose Festival's Grand Floral Parade route, was sentenced today to 5 years in prison. Dashcam video taken from inside the man's truck captured the June 2023 incident. Thank you for joining us at 4. I'm Tim Gordon. Investigative reporter Kyle Aboshi was the first to uncover this dramatic video, and he was in the courtroom for today's plea hearing and sentencing. Kyle.
43-year-old Sidney Meekum pleaded guilty to 2 felony counts and 16 misdemeanors. In court, he said he was ashamed of his actions and truly sorry for the pain and fear he caused to hundreds of children along the parade route and their families.
This dramatic dashcam video shows a Portland driver plowing past barricades, nearly hitting several people along the Rose Festival's Grand Floral Parade route in June of 2023. On Tuesday, the man behind the wheel was sentenced to 5 years in prison.
I'm taking responsibility for my actions and accepting the consequences.
43-year-old Sidney Meekum pleaded guilty to 2 felony counts of unlawful use of a weapon and 16 misdemeanor counts.
I want to reassure everyone this was not a planned attack on Portland or the Rose Parade. This was poor planning and impulsive thinking.
The 30-minute dashcam recording taken from inside his truck shows Meekum becoming increasingly frustrated by heavy traffic. His music blaring as Meekum headed toward the Rose Quarter in North Portland, where he'd planned to meet others, including his mother. ODOT crews had blocked off numerous exits to help keep traffic away from the parade route.
They got it all blocked off. The Lloyd Center exit, the Convention Center exit, every motherfucking exit. You motherfuckers!
The video shows Meekum driving through a row of barricades before blowing past ODOT crews blocking the exit ramp. A Portland police motorcycle officer chased after Meekum's truck before pulling up beside him. The officer shouted for Meekum to stop, but he refused. The truck eventually turned, exiting the parade route. Meekum drove through barricades, nearly hitting several people. An unmarked police SUV attempted to stop Meekum at a red light in Portland's Lloyd district, but he drove off. The video showed Meekum continuing to drive for several blocks until he eventually stopped near other officers in Northeast Portland.
In addition to his conviction for the June 2023 incident, Meekum also agreed to pay a $5,000 fine for an unrelated crash. According to court documents, Meekum intentionally crashed into a woman's vehicle in April of 2023. Prosecutors did not pursue charges for that hit-and-run incident.
Okay, Kyle, thanks very much. Well, Portland police say they've conducted a mission targeting crime on the east side. It focused on a multi-use path near I-205 between Southeast Holgate and Flavel Streets. Officers say this was to take on illegal camping and trespassing. 12 people were taken into custody, although none were eligible for deflection. A number of them also had either misdemeanor or felony warrants. Police say they expect to continue these missions throughout the city. Well, safety continues to be a top concern for TriMet riders in the metro area. A recent survey shows about 2,000 people point to concerns primarily about other riders' behavior and a lack of transit police. Blair Best talked with riders and a spokesperson for TriMet on what's being done about it.
It's the familiar sound of public transit that many rely on to get around, yet it comes with mixed reviews.
TriMet and the bus system, the MAX system, just heaven. It really is.
I've seen violence. I've seen somebody stabbed on it. I've seen people doing fentanyl on tinfoil all the time in there.
A recent survey by a Seattle-based research firm talked with more than 4,000 TriMet riders. 73% of them approved of the job TriMet is doing.
Yeah, it's safe. Driver take the responsibility. to safely reach the passengers.
Yet nearly half of those surveyed said it was safety concerns keeping them from riding, pointing to primarily other riders' behavior and lack of transit police. The survey also shows many would not recommend TriMet to friends or family.
There's people smoking meth on the max, and you have to get off.
I've seen a whole lot of that on the bus. The max. You know, you say something, they don't do nothing.
I do think it's gotten worse.
Just be aware of your surroundings.
We're confident that the survey is showing that we're moving in the right direction.
Tyler Graff is a spokesperson for TriMet that provides more than 1.3 million rides per week.
So the survey was conducted earlier this spring. Since then, we've added about 80 more transit security officers to the system.
What do you have to say to those riders who still don't feel safe?
More improvements are coming in the future.
TriMet continues to add safety and security staff and expand its cleaning team as it tries to improve its reputation.
I know there's already a lot of security, but I think it definitely use more of a security presence.
That's one reason why we do the surveys, though, is to hear both the positive and the negative, both from riders and from non-riders, because that helps us make decisions in the future.
There are currently more than 400 staff, the most ever, riding the trains and buses, watching out for drug use and other dangerous behavior. And last year, TriMet launched a 24-hour hotline that people can call. They say if you see something, they want to hear from you. Back to you.
All right, Blair, thanks a lot. Well, developing today, the Oregon School Activities Association is investigating allegations of racial slurs directed toward athletes at David Douglas High School in southeast Portland. David Douglas assistant football coach Marcel Frazier told us players, staff members, and fans have all dealt with racist remarks at times this season. He says the first incident was during their first football game of the year at Forest Grove High School when someone pulled up in a pickup truck and started making primate sounds. The following week, a JV player said he was called the N-word during a game at Rex Putnam. And Frazier says when David Douglas players played at Nelson High in Happy Valley, they were met with more slurs.
And after the game, we're just all kind of like, did this really happen? Did we just have back-to-back days of N-words, King Kong, monkey chants?
Frazier says referees and coaches were told what was going on, but no players were removed from the game. In a statement, Nelson High Principal Greg Harris called the behavior unacceptable, saying it stands in contrast to school values. The OSAA says it's working with school administrators to learn more about these reports and hold people accountable. Well, friends have started a GoFundMe to help support the family of a local fishing guide after he died last week. Last Wednesday, Hood River deputies responded to an overturned boat in the Columbia River. Rescue crews pulled 6 people out of the water that day, but 26-year-old Michael Schufelt went missing until his body was recovered yesterday. Loved ones described him as a skilled fisherman and a loving husband and father.
I'd always call Michael kind of the old school fisherman caught in a young guide's body, man. The kid was good, people rallying behind like a young family and really helping out a guy that honestly deserved to be here a lot longer than he was.
We have a link to the GoFundMe at KGW.com. A Vancouver police officer who pulled a suspect's pants down and threatened to use a taser on private parts has been suspended. Earlier this year, a jury found Officer Andrea Mendoza not guilty of assault over the incident. However, Vancouver police say she has been suspended for 5 days for violating the department's use of force policies. Mendoza will have to undergo counseling sessions and training for discourteous conduct. The incident involved a theft suspect at a Walmart who had been fighting with police. Well, we all know it's not cheap to fly, and one of the biggest costs, of course, is the fuel. But researchers at Washington State have found a way to produce a sustainable jet fuel from plant waste that they hope will be a big game changer. Meteorologist Joe Ranieri is here to explain. And Joe, what kind of plants are we talking about here?
Well, Tim, researchers have been using corn stover. That's the stalks and the cobs that are left after harvesting. They're also using certain trees too, but what we might think of as waste is getting turned into a more sustainable fuel for planes.
It takes billions of gallons to fuel flights from all over the world every year.
Jet fuel costs are one of the largest expenses for an airline.
A cost that consumers pay for to go on trips, but new research is turning to a more sustainable way to fuel those flights.
Everything you flush down the toilet or throw away in the trash, I can find someone that can take that carbon and turn it into jet fuel.
Joshua Hine is the director of Byproduct Sciences and Engineering Lab at Washington State University in the Tri-Cities. They have found that a certain material you find in types of plants like corn and certain trees can be used to fuel planes.
Lignin is the material that gives plants a lot of their structure and makes them strong. So naturally, it's one of the more difficult things to work with to convert into other useful products.
Bin Yang is the professor behind turning lignin that otherwise would be tossed away into a green alternative. Much of the process is broken down in his lab.
So we have a thermal catalysis process, separate the components, and I can put the carbohydrates for ethanol production.
With jet fuel expected to climb higher in price, turning to a much different approach that doesn't take much time at all.
Less than an hour. And we have a continuous. So now you have it continuous. What that means, you continue feeds, continue produce.
Will help the environment and eventually the bottom line of airlines and consumers.
Now, the two researchers you just heard from said the plant-based fuels could not only help reduce our carbon footprint, but also meet international carbon neutrality goals. Tim, back to you.
All right, Joe, thanks a lot. Really interesting and promising, too.